Hey, we make disciples. That's what we're all about at Blackshear Place Baptist Church. I've been reading a new book this week called The Art of Neighboring. And this book is all about loving your neighbor. And it really focuses on Luke chapter 10, the story of the Good Samaritan, where a religious leader asked Jesus, "Who is your neighbor?" And Jesus goes through this story to tell about the story of the Good Samaritan that I'm sure you heard. Samaritan was on his way, and there was a Jewish man that was injured, and the priest didn't help him, the Levite didn't help him, but the Samaritan helped the man. And Jesus asked the question at the end of the story, who was the neighbor to this man that was injured? And the obvious answer was that the Samaritan was. And so we use that story to say anybody that needs help is our neighbor. But sometimes I think we use that to forget that our neighbor is our actual neighbor. By neighbor, you know what I mean. The person that lives next door to us is our actual neighbor. So as I'm thinking about the gospel and sharing the gospel, one thing the book points out that I think is really interesting is that the Great Command always precedes the Great Commission. What does that mean? The Great Command, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, always comes before go and make disciples. So if we truly love people, if we truly love God and love people, disciple making flows out of that. So I want to ask you the question, do you love your actual neighbor? Do you have a relationship with your actual neighbor? Here's a little chart I want to show you just to think about. I want you to draw this chart at your house, write it on a sheet of paper. Imagine this is your house in the middle, and these are the 8 houses that are closest to you. So if you can imagine the 8 houses that are closest in proximity to where you live, I want you to ask these 3 questions and see if you can fill in these blocks. Question number 1 is this: what are the names of your 8 closest neighbors? Without looking at a directory or anything like that, what are the names of the people that live in the 8 closest houses to you? Now, I got to tell you, I did pretty bad on this. I got about 4 of the names of the 8, and the rest of them I was just like guy with brown hair, girl with long blonde hair, and I didn't know their names, which was very convicting. The second thing is, could you write down relevant information about them? Not they drive a yellow car, but something you know about them because of a relationship you've had with them. Do you know them? And then the third thing is write down any in-depth information you might know about them, their spiritual condition. And what you can do is you're going to use this as a map. You can put it on your refrigerator where you can remember to pray for your neighbors and actually be actively involved in loving your neighbors. Make time to spend with your neighbors, not just to win them for the gospel, but actually because you care about them, because that's what Jesus tells us to do, is to love our neighbors. And when we naturally love people, the gospel's going to come out of us, because what's most important to us can't stay inside of us. So I want to challenge you to make your chart and see how well you do. It might be very convicting in your life, like it has been in mine, that I need to love my neighbors. Let me give you a couple quick tips on how to do that. 1, make sure you play in the front yard. When you're in the front yard, you're inviting other people to you. 2, think about how you can invite your neighbors over to something. You know, it's a great time of the year to do some cookouts. Sunday afternoons, we haven't had church. Would you use that time to invite your neighbors over to your house, spend some time with them? And here's the third thing. Remember, when someone invites you, you need to go. When your neighbors invite you to something and they invite you into their world, even if it's something that might make you a little bit uncomfortable, you really show your neighbors you love them by going and investing in their lives. Remember, Jesus was always talked negatively about because he would go to parties and love sinners. The Pharisees were always saying, what is he doing hanging out with sinners? So if people are questioning why you're hanging out with sinners, you're in good company with Jesus. So I want to encourage you, love your neighbors. How do we make disciples? We start by loving our neighbors. Hey, I love you guys. Can't wait to see you this Sunday.